and Facebook. Next. Okay, welcome to week 9. I can't believe it's already been 9 weeks. So welcome to week 9 of Homemade with TGP. I'm just going to ask those of you who are able to mute yourselves. I'm going to mute those of you who can't. We're going to stay muted for a while our lovely chefs teach us how to make what they're making. First, we have, it's a special treat today. We're doing 2 in 1. It's very exciting. First, we have Lana teaching us how to make her apple cake, her Russian Apple Sharlotka Cake. Did I say that right? Sharlotka? I like that.
Sharlotka.
And then when she's done, as she puts it in the oven, then we're going to go over to Deb Grodenchik, who's going to teach us how to make her fudge that she makes every year for Yom Kippur, which is very exciting. But, you know, sadly, I can't eat it here because it's at her house. So I expect pieces of everything coming to the synagogue tomorrow. And then we'll go back to Lana, and we'll go back and forth between the two ladies. So it's going to be very exciting. So welcome to Lana's kitchen, and let's learn about her cake.
I can start? Okay. Hi, everybody. Today we're making Sharlotka, Russian Sharlotka. Welcome to my kitchen. We have some friends over. First, we need to have a couple of apples. If you have a big one or a little bit smaller one, it depends how you like it. If you like more apples or less apples, it's up to you. If you want to clean them up without skin, or you want to make it with the skin on, how you like it. It's your preference. So if you decide to take the skin off, and it's done quick. He's my helper. He can't stand everything to be clean. Okay, so you have an apple, plain apple. I usually cut it like this, and one side and then the other side. Also, there are 2 different type of decorating apple cake. If you want to put the apples on underneath, or you want to mix it in your dough, it's up to you. How do you like it? If you like to fill the dough with apples, or you want to separate, usually I put it together, so it kind of mixed. So I just cut apples in little cubes.
Can you do both? Put like the apples at the bottom and the apples mixed in?
Yes, you can mix it. So it's kind of like this, small bomb, like a small cubes. Okay. So let's put this in. Well, we already kind of have the pre-made one. He has to check that everything has to be done properly, right there. Okay. So if you make a bigger pie, you can use 2 apples for the mix, and then 1 apple on the top. It depends on the size of the apples again. We'll just do 1 for now. Okay.
Lana, what kind of apples are you using?
I like to use sour, like Granny Smith, like sour apples. That way it tastes, to me, it tastes better. It's soury taste. Or
Okay.
gala apples.
Oh, I like gala.
So green apples or slightly reddish, pinky apples. So I put a little bit of sugar, just a little bit, and a little bit of cinnamon if you like cinnamon. This is actually Amish cinnamon that I got. Mix it a little bit. So you have your apples mixed. Now we'll go for the dough. Take 3 eggs. 3 eggs. In the recipe, it says 1 cup. I use half a cup. I don't like too sweet. So I use half a cup. It's okay. I will show you. I use 2 cups. Okay, so while I'm gonna mix this together, Aaron is gonna read you the story about Russian Shalotka. Go ahead, loud and clear.
The Russian Charlotte was invented in London at the beginning of 19th century by the French chef Marie Antoine Curie, who was in the service of Alexander the First.
Can you hear him? Yeah, okay. So you mix it on a high for about 2-3 minutes.
Initially, the dish was called Charlotte Haitian. Later, the dessert became famous all over the world under the name Charlotte Bouquet. To make a Russian Charlotte Simone is laid out with caviar cookies or ready-made biscuit and filled with Bavarian cream and whipped cream. Then the dessert should be cold until parting.
Okay. So while we're still mixing, yeah, but I don't want to make it home. So it's basically just like that. You can see it. Okay. So I put a little bit of baking soda. Just a little bit. Pinch. And a little bit of lemon. Lemon juice, just a little bit. And mix it in. You can put more extra vanilla, a spoon of it, or you can add vanilla powder,
vanilla sugar.
vanilla sugar, flavor in it. But it's gonna be more brownish color now.
Lana, what is that? What was that you just put in? What was that you just put in? That packet?
Oh, I'm sorry?
The package that you just put in, what was that?
It's a vanilla flavor.
Oh, vanilla.
Sugar. Vanilla flavor sugar.
Got it. Vanilla flavor sugar. Okay, got it.
Okay.
Got it. Got it. You could also use vanilla. You could also use this, right? The vanilla extract.
Flour. And I usually sift it. Розкажи. Hold it. So I usually sift it. So you just sift a little bit in it. And you mix it slowly with a spoon, mix it all in. So the dough comes out more softer. You don't mix it with a mixer. So it's kind of like this. If you want to add apples in it, or you can put the apples in the baking. In a pan. You can mix it already, put it in the pan, or you can put it in the dough. And look, we can do this. You can put it in the dough and mix it with the dough. So kind of a little soft, not too much movement in the dough. You take the pan and you spray with the butter. And you put everything in. And this is it. And for the decoration on top, you use another apple. This is a half. I know, so two of these. Yes. Okay.
Sugar.
So you spray that, and you use another apple. You can either take the skin off, or you can use with the skin to decorate. I have two options to decorate again. You take the apple. I take this with the skin because it comes out nicer when you take the skin off. It's better for the inside. So this is, I do the same, and I do the thin slices now. Now I use the thin slices this way like that. And you just decorate it. when you use the round pen, I'll show you the end result later with the round pen and with the square one. How much are these? Just have less than half here. I usually put them standing in, so you can see it, it's like standing in. Okay. And it will come out as a rose when you finish baking. Then you put it to 350 for about 40, 45 minutes. Once you start smelling the cake, it's already on the way. So you just watch it when to take it out. And so this is it. And now we go in the oven, put it in for 40 minutes, and we'll come back. Go over to Deborah Grodenchik. Enjoy.
Hi all. So I am here to show you how to make my fudge. And I can't see myself. There I am. So the first thing you want to do is get your brownie pan, square 8 by 8, and line it with foil. Because if you don't do that, you're going to be eating your fudge out of the pan with a spoon. So I tear a sheet a little bit bigger than the pan, and I'm going to press it in gently so I don't tear it. And what I do is I kind of work my way first into the corners, all the way around, and I kind of smooth it up as much as I can against the edges of the pan, because your fudge is going to take on the shape of your pan. And if your foil is kind of on an angle and not really pressed out to the sides, you're going to have very strange edges. So you want to press it all the way into the corners, okay? So you take your prepared pan, set it aside, and then the next thing you do is get a big glass measuring cup or glass baking bowl, or if you want to do it on the stove top, you can put it in a pan, and you would do it on very low heat on the stove top. But since I hurt my shoulder, it takes too much stirring because you have to stir it constantly when you're doing it on the stove top. So I do it in my glass baking measuring cup, and the first thing you need is 3 cups of chips. Now, if you don't have the industrial size bag like I do from Costco or BJ's, you can probably use about 2 bags of the prepackaged chips, and that comes out to be about 3 cups. And a little more, a little less is fine, but I always say more is better, so at least in numbers of chocolate chips in the fudge. We'll say less is more in a minute, but we'll see why.
Deb?
Noise. Yeah.
Deb, am I
Yeah.
using the chips if I'm doing the non-dairy version?
You're going to use your 2 bags of chips, non-dairy chips, hard chips. My chips happen to be dairy. They're semi-sweet. You can use any chips you want, really, and it's either 2 bags or it's 3 cups, depending on the size.
Oh,
Yep.
Just 2 bags. Got it.
I actually, the first time I did the non-dairy version was probably last week, just because I wanted to try it for Alan and the rabbi and anybody else who can't have dairy. So that was my first attempt. And I was thinking about doing a single bag and a tiny can of the milk that I used, except it was way too thin and it was never going to set. So my 3rd cup of chips is in. The other way you can do it if you have a big measuring bowls, I just kind of pour in until I have 3 cups, and it pretty much measures out well.
Do you put, I'm sorry, I am a guest. and I lure my husband because of the vegan fudge. Do we put the whole thing, all the chips in the microwave, or only half?
It depends on how much you have. Do you have the bags of the vegan chips, like the 10, 12 ounce bags roughly?
Yeah, they're kind of big.
It doesn't matter the size of the chip itself, it's how much the bag weighs. Is it, how big is the bag itself?
10 ounces?
If it's 10 ounces and you only have one bag, you
Yeah.
have less coconut milk. I mean, coconut cream, sorry.
Yeah, I do have the coconut too.
Yeah, so you're gonna, if you only have one bag of chips, you'll just use a 1/4 cup of the coconut cream, maybe a little bit more, but I don't know if I'd use a 1/2 cup. Maybe,
Okay.
it might be fine. You have to test the texture. You'll see how it goes. So I have sweetened condensed milk. This is the full fat, full sugar, full on, whatever version you wanna make that's
I
unhealthy.
have a question about the chips.
Sure.
If you wanted to add like peanut butter chips in, or other flavors,
I would
could you
do
that?
layers of flavors, or I would do a particular flavor. I've made butterscotch fudge before. I've made milk chocolate chips. My friend doesn't like semi-sweet. I've done darker chocolate for my mom. You can use peanut butter chips, but I would pick a single flavor, because if you blend them, they'll kind of get muddled. So you want to choose a flavor and go with that. If you want to do layers, you could do half the recipe, one flavor, and then chill it, and then do the second layer on top. And then you could have layered fudge. So that might be interesting. Like I was thinking of doing this regular recipe, just semi-sweet, and then mint chips for the top layer. Look at the face, oh my God. Okay, so I'm pouring in my entire can of condensed milk. This is the version that will come out to be about 65 calories per piece of fudge. When you go for the healthier versions, you can make them about 40 or 50 calories, depending on what chips you use, what milk you use. Like, I think the chips I suggested were just a non-dairy. So I have Parv chips, but they're sugar chips, as opposed to non-sugar, which I have from Lily's. But that Lily's is made on equipment with dairy. So you have to really decide what you want to give up and what you're willing to put up with.
Deb, excuse me. Coconut cream is 1/2 cup with two packages of chips.
We're going to do if 2 packages of chips, it is, I was going to say that when I got to the microwave. So if you're doing that one, I'll tell you now. Hang on, let me just wash my hands for a second. I got condensed milk all over them. If you're doing the 2 packages of Parv chips, what I did last week, and it worked perfectly fine, is I did a little 5-ounce can, 5.4-ounce can of cream. If you have a bigger can, this is about a 1/2 cup. Okay. It's a little bit more actually. So you could pour the 1/2 and let a little spill over extra. It shouldn't be an issue unless the milk is very thin, and then it may thin out the mix too much to set.
Deb?
Yeah.
When you use the Lily chips, because I use Lily chips sometimes, what do you use as your liquid? The same condensed milk or something?
Whatever milk you want. I would not use condensed milk.
No, I wouldn't either. What would you suggest?
I would use the coconut cream, because coconut cream is literally coconut and water. If you're getting a good version of it, otherwise they have additives on others. But this one is really, really nice. Trader Joe's has a nice one. This one is organic coconut and water, and this one is kosher Parv. The Native Forest is the one that is made on equipment with dairy. So
where do you get the little can from?
The little can I found, I have no idea. I probably ordered it online when I was buying vitamins or something.
And turn the can that you got from Trader Joe's to the camera for 1 sec. Okay, got it.
Okay.
Yep.
So again, if you're using a large can, I'd worry about how thin the liquid is, because when I put in 1 bag of chips, I thought 14 ounces of sweetened condensed milk, 5 ounces might be too little. So I bought a few cans. And when I put this in, it was very, very liquidy, even though it's coconut cream, not coconut milk. So when I mixed it in, I said, this is going to be too thin. I knew the texture wasn't right. So I added a 2nd bag of chips, and it set fine. So little can coconut cream, 2 bags of chips, or the chips.
Does it make the fudge taste like coconut?
No, because the one I happen to have here had no flavor. I tasted the coconut cream before I used it, and it tasted like nothing. It just was, like milky-ish, but there was no coconut flavor to it.
No taste, because I've licked my fingers.
Good, because I haven't tasted the others. So Ellen, show them your can, because I've not tasted the Trader Joe's, so I can't vouch for the flavor.
This is
organic something.
Organic heavy coconut cream. Where did I get this? Oh, I got this in ShopRite yesterday.
Okay, good. And then the last thing you need is, for the moment, chips, milk, whatever you're using, and then just a little dash of salt.
And if I don't put in the salt, is that a bad thing?
I think it just says something to the temperature at which the stuff will melt, and I have no idea why they say to add it, but I add it because that's what the recipe said originally.
A little dash.
Yeah, just a dash. I found the recipe probably on a can of condensed milk when I was making something 100 years ago, because I have no idea to this day where I got it from. It's so old. I've been doing this for years. So once you have it all mixed up, you want to kind of get everything stirred together. Goes into the microwave, and I'll tell you where this all came from about the whole holiday thing. So I'm going to do it for a minute and a half to start.
Deb, question: did you do anything with the vanilla? Did you do anything with vanilla extract yet?
That's the very last thing. Be careful if you're going to put it in the microwave. You got to do 50% power, because I tried it at regular power and it just never came out. And my friend taught me this trick recently, so I was very grateful, because now when I do the microwave, it works really nicely. But 50% power is necessary. So we go down to 5. I'm going to say it every time, otherwise I forget. All right, so years ago, my mother and I, after Chauffeur Blue, always wanted to have something before we got home, because we don't want to wait for the ride to happen. So we always put Hershey's Kisses in the car. And then years later, I started making fudge. So we started putting a little packet of fudge in the car waiting for the ride home. And then when we came here and the ride to Temple was so much longer, there was no way I was waiting till I got home, because that would have been like 20, 30 minutes before I was eating. So I started bringing a little tiny Ziploc and leaving it in my coat pocket. And then when Chauffeur Blue, we would go to coat closet, I'd have a little fudge. And then some people kind of caught wind of that who knew I was a fudge maker. And they said, oh, you have extra? Does that fudge? So I started handing it out to people who sat near me. And then other people saw it. And then the rabbi had a piece. And then at some point in time, it just turned into, why don't I just make for everybody? So that's where the whole thing came from. My mother and I had to have that little bit of chocolate after Chauffeur, and it kind of caught on. So I have 20-something seconds left. So if anybody have any other questions while we're talking about it, because I already did the whole variety of chips thing, what I was saving for now. Oh, you can also put nuts in later. We'll talk about that. Or you can put crushed nuts on top. I've done that for friends who want the nuts in their fudge. I don't like nuts in my chocolate. I'm a purist. So you have options. And 3, 2, 1. Go. So what I'm going to do now is, it's pretty warm. You want to take your rubber spatula and go underneath. If you look at the bottom of the bowl, it's very white and you got the chocolate specks everywhere. But if you just kind of stir it, all the milk, well, not all, but a bunch of milk's going to be staying behind on the bottom if you're not careful. So you got to really get underneath and mix that milk up through the chocolate. So you really want to like fold it in, up and around and underneath and up and over. And I still have a lot of milk down there, so I'm going to keep going to the bottom. This is not nearly close to being done, but we'll get there. And you want to stir it pretty well, because in the microwave, things cook from the inside out. So you want to make sure that you're getting a good stir on it to distribute the heat, so that the chocolate has a better chance to really fully melt as much as it can. And if we look at the bottom, yeah, pretty much the white is gone. So I'm going to clean off the spoon. Hello, say hi to everybody.
Hello, everybody.
I'm gonna, excuse me.
I didn't see. Oh, there I am.
I'm gonna scrape off this so I can get all the good stuff back into the bowl. Okay, now you're in my bite. So excuse me, sir.
You saw that she pushed me.
All right, back into the microwave. Now, when you go back in, you don't want to go more than 30 seconds at a time. Otherwise, you may overheat the chocolate. So I'm gonna go for another 30 seconds now. And again, make sure you always tell yourself 50% power.
You done with this?
Barry, stop, I'm talking. So 50% power, otherwise you're gonna have a problem. See, he said he was gonna help me, but he's not, so.
I'm helping you, I'm staying out of your way.
Get away. So the problem with chocolate is if you overdo it, it will seize, and then it gets kind of mealy, and you can't really use it well. So if you overdo the chocolate, you'll have a problem. So if you think it's really close to being done, it looks almost melted, but not quite, maybe 15 seconds is even better. So I'm gonna go get this out now and stir it again. And if you look, it's really, really pretty close to being melted. There's still some chip structure in there. So I'm gonna mix it, stir it a bit, go from the bottom Stir it a bit because it'll give the chance again for the chips to go from the inside out with that melting action. Now, if you look at it again, can I get you some? It's really very, very melty, but if you look, there's some bubbles of chips in there, so it's not done quite yet. So I'm gonna go back one more time. I may only do this like 15, 20 seconds, but I'm looking actually, hold on. I said that melting thing happens. I'm still stirring, and it looks like all that melting's happening in the bowl as I'm speaking. So I'm gonna look again.
Why is this is how it is?
Thickness.
The thickness?
It's very, very thin. If you take a look at mine,
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
it's like not even falling off yet. So you may need more chips. What kind of milk did you use? What kind of chips? It should not stir easily. It should be very, very thick. And I'm looking at this saying, I don't know, maybe it was Barry, but it looks like the chips are all melted. Hang on, I want to go to underneath and see if there's any chip. No, I only needed to put it in twice. I don't know if you can see this, but it's very, very, very smooth. So at this point, is if you were doing this on the stove top, once you get to that really smooth, all the chips are melted thing, this is when you put in the vanilla. So again, pure vanilla extract like Lana used before, or we could use. And 1 teaspoon. Never use imitation because it never comes out right. It'll taste chemically. So I do a teaspoon, and I don't actually measure. I usually just pour it in myself, but I measured for you guys, so make sure it works. And then you mix that in really well. So you got to go from the bottom to the top, fold it in, wrap the chocolate around it, get that vanilla all mixed in. And it's a good workout for your arms. So if anybody has a bad shoulder, I would not recommend the stovetop. If you have bad wrists or hands, this is going to be challenging because the stirring piece is not easy if you have issues. So what I'm looking at now is pretty shiny chocolate in the bowl. So I'm going to take my pan and just kind of pour it in. You want to get every last bit, unless you like to lick the bowl. Then you can leave a little behind. But I don't like to lick the bowl, so I'm going to get as much as I can into the pan. Now, it should be pretty thick. So this stuff is pretty thick. It's not going too far. But you want to spread it into the corners all the way to the edges and make it as even as you can. And then once you get it all nice and spread out, if you want, you can put the nuts into it at this point. If you, onto it, like press them into the top. If you wanted to mix the nuts into the middle, I would do it at the same time you were putting the vanilla in. So at the very, very end, you decide on if you want nuts or if you want just pure chocolate like I give out. And then I take this, I stick it in a Ziploc pan. You see how it's not really moving. And a Ziploc bag, not a Ziploc pan, this is a pan. Pan goes in a Ziploc bag into the fridge for at least an hour, preferably 2. If you're in a rush, you could put it in the freezer for 45 minutes to an hour. And then we're going to take you back to Lana's kitchen. And when she's done, I will show you what to do.
Wait, don't go. No, don't go.
I'm not going.
Is this too liquidy?
Take it on the spoon and try to pour it off and show me what it looks like. No, if it's sticking to the spoon that well, that should be fine. You don't want it pouring off the spoon easily.
Okay, and I just missed how much vanilla you use.
A teaspoon.
A teaspoon of vanilla, and I'm gonna put some walnuts in there. So I do the vanilla and the vanilla and the walnuts at the same time.
You can if you want to mix it all the way in. Now, if it's really thick, it may not mix in well, so you may just want to sprinkle them on top and press them into the top. That's
I'm gonna ask Alan what he prefers.
That's it.
Oh, he wants it mixed in.
Yeah, you can really do
I have a question.
Road and all different kinds of mix-ins. Mm-hmm.
If it is too liquidy and you don't have any more chips, what can you do?
I don't know if it's kind of like with like the toothpaste out of the tube, you can't get it back in. You could refrigerate it and then wait to get more chips and then remelt the whole thing if you haven't put the vanilla in. Did you already put the vanilla in?
Yeah, already put vanilla.
You could try and set it, but it may not set. If you want, you could probably put it into little candy molds if you have that. I'm going to show you these later. These little candy papers. So I will make it pretty when I'm giving a gift. And if you put it in here, that way it kind of holds it, contains it.
Okay.
and maybe, you know, set it into
Can
a
you put it in the freezer or no?
I do freeze it, but it wouldn't be able to stay out long. Once it starts thawing, it may get very, very liquidy. So you could try it. I don't know. I mean, I freeze it for a time when I'm in a rush before I want to cut it. But if it's thin, I don't know how it would work.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you.
You might also considering just trying a different recipe. Once I had too much leftover chocolate icing, and I just made bread pudding and put the chocolate in the bread pudding, and it was a major hit.
Well, there you go. So you could, instead of making it as fudge, make it like a ganache or frosting.
Right, exactly.
You could dip apples into it since you have apples there.
Yeah. Do we?
Are we coming back to me?
All right, so we're back to Lana. I'm putting this stuff in the fridge. I'll see you all later. Except Lana, you're muted.
Okay, so I made 2 pies before, 2 Charlotka before, 1 this way, just on top, and 1 that way. The way I sliced it thinly, and then see how it comes out like a rose. So I take sugar powder and just spray it on top, powdered sugar. But you have to do it when it's cooled off, because when you just put the powdered sugar, it's gonna melt. And it's done. And you just cut. Well, it's coming out easy, I guess. So we can just easily slice it out.
Simple.
And it's very easy to just slice it out. And you see the difference this way and this way. And you can cut it up. Because you put more cinnamon, it comes out a little bit more cinnamony. Cinnamony. And this one is less cinnamon, so it should be less brownish. This is how it is. And you can come over to my house. I have 2 pies ready to eat.
Lana, those are beautiful and they look so delicious.
You could put whipped cream on top.
And you can put whipped cream on top if you wish, or fruits, berries, any berries, so tea or coffee.
Everything tastes better with whipped cream.
And you're ready to feed your guests. And we can come back to Deborah. Over.
Okay, we're back. So when the fudge is done, 2 hours have passed miraculously, and it's solid, pretty much. And you just basically unwrap it and carefully peel off the foil from the edges. Otherwise, the foil can tear and get stuck in the chocolate, and that's not fun. So I'm going to slowly peel it off. If you want to go to town on this, have fun, but I'm going to cut it up. What I usually do, I take a really big knife and I cut it in half And I'll show you because my camera won't show you the bottom view, but I'll lift the view to you. So I cut it basically down the middle, and then I cut it down the middle again. And they kind of sell it like this in stores in these big giant chunks. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take each of these quarters and cut them in 4 pieces again, and then yet again, and I'm going to come up with 64 pieces of fudge. So as you're cutting, if you want to make things really nice, what you can do is take the rounded edges and just like trim off maybe 1/4 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch to make it very squared off. So if I'm putting them in a package for a gift, the edges are really nice and the pieces will look good, fit nicely, and nothing falls over because there's all nice straight square edges. So what I did is I put a batch in when I give it to people and I bring it to people's homes. I literally just take some plastic wrap and I line a plastic container and I chop up, and if you look, the cubes are all square all around, and it's like a 1-inch cube. And like I said, depending on which milk you use, you have 40, 50, or 60 some odd calories per piece. So it's friendly, it's under 100 calorie snack. And if you like the French, you savor just 1 piece. If you want to, hang on a second, I want to wash my hands again to show you how I make gifts for people. Is like I said before with the papers, I will take the paper sometimes if I want to just make it really look nice. And I have these little presentation boxes I get at chocolate shops. And then you can line the papers inside, put the chocolate inside. If you want to be more generous, you can take a slightly larger box, and sometimes I'll just put parchment paper along the bottom. And if I can make 2 layers, I'll put a layer between, and I'll just put the fudge straight in, and I won't separate it. So it doesn't look as nice, but it's a lot more fudge. And then you can get even larger boxes. And then I get the ones you can write on top of, and I put little happy birthday.
Foil. With foil or do you put paper before you
line it with foil? Because you have to lift it out. If you don't put anything in, you need the foil to act like handles.
on the foil? No butter, nothing.
Oh,
Just
no, it goes right in the foil, and the foil peels right off. So you have, if you look, I peeled the foil off, and it lifts out like handles. That's why you want the foil a little bit bigger than the pan, so to lift out nicely.
Deb,
Is our holiday.
Deb, you ever use parchment paper and bring it out instead of the foil?
I've never tried it with parchment paper, but I've always had a problem when I do anything with parchment paper. I can't get it into the corners well. It kind of is always, you know, if you crease it really well and then the corners are an issue, I didn't want to lose too much of the shape on the edges and the corners and the fudge. So that's why I always use the foil.
Deb, I put it in the freezer for now. So how long does it usually stay in the freezer for?
I'd say if you do freezer, 45 minutes to an hour. If you do closer to 45, it may be very soft in the middle. So what I've been known to do is cut an inch off of all the edges and go in from the edges 1 inch at a time. So you're cutting kind of strips off of it and then cut those into 1-inch cubes. Because as you get to the center, you're going to see the knife will stick to it. It's going to be very, very soft. So you may need to put that middle piece back in the freezer again for a little bit. Or the fridge is better because, I mean, if you have time to let it wait, you know, this came out. This actually sat overnight, which is not a problem, but this would be like this after 2 hours and solid, and it's not.
Oh, I'll put it in the fridge for 2 hours. Okay.
Yeah, that'll work fine. David's yelling at the cats. Okay. So that's my fudge. So I hope that you make it and enjoy it next week after Show for Blows.
Wait, you're already done? I was on for like 5 minutes.
So if anybody needs fudge, I now have 2 batches in the house. I am happy to share if you want to meet to arrange to meet up. Okay, David wants. Bakasha. And that's it.
Sounds good to me.
Anybody else have any questions?
She's going to look outside. She's going to see a line of cars in front of her.
If you put it in the refrigerator or freezer, does it still have to be still a little bit warm? It's okay, or you have to cool it off completely?
Oh, it's fine. It should be cool enough that it can go right in.
Doesn't matter. So it's still a little bit warm.
I put it in a Ziploc bag, just to keep any of the odors from the fridge out. I zips in. Hang on. Please. I zip it, so I want to seal it in.
Oh, you need to seal it in?
I like to seal it in because I don't want flavors from the fridge. If any flavors from the fridge are kind of floating around, I want this to be pure.
Is it plastic bag or foil?
Okay.
No, foil, I think.
You're on Facebook Live, Dave.
Whatever.
Debbie,
Yes.
Debbie,
I was wondering, instead of using chocolate chips, could you use baking chocolate? Would it be easy to mix up?
I don't think so. Baker's chocolate will probably take a, if you chop it maybe, but Baker's chocolate will be bitter, so you're gonna need to add some kind of sweetener probably. Unless you're using the sweetened condensed milk, which has the sugar in it. I don't know how it'll affect the flavor, but I'd say chop there's a big block, you know, those will take longer to melt, I would think. So I'd want to chop that up first.
Can I just say one thing to Deb Grodenchik?
Sure.
Alan has never eaten your fudge because it's dairy.
No.
And he thanks you. Hold on a second.
Thanks, Deb.
All for you, Alan.
So that was it was very, very exciting that you figured it out. And now he can finally see what everybody's talking about.
Yep, and now the rabbi can have it because I know he can't have dairy, and the vegans can have it if they want, and the people who don't have sugar can have, because there's such a variety of things you can mix it with.
Can I tell you, just let me read you guys something. On this heavy coconut cream, there's no sodium, there's no sugar. Alan was shocked. There's no sugar, no sodium, no cholesterol, carbohydrates, protein is all 0. The only thing it is 4.5 grams of fat. That's it. And the calories is 45 calories for a tablespoon.
Yep.
So I when you hear the word cream, you think it's going to be so, you know, heavy. And
Coconut cream, it's a really healthy fat, and that's about all it is.
I have chocolate on my face. Thank you, Dina.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Lana. Is there anything else you want to share or tell us, Lana? Oh, you're muted. You're muted. Wait.
I just want to wish from my house everybody a happy and a healthy upcoming Rosh Hashanah. Let this year be much better than the last one. Let all be healthy, and we'll meet next time. So
Amen.
Dina,
Thank
just to remind everybody that Sisterhood is having bingo on September 21st. Please send in your reservations to Robin. I hope everybody will join us for bingo on September 21st, Monday night.
All right. Anyone else? All right. So let me just stop sharing on Facebook and stop recording.